separated. We kind of spread it apart because we're working on ourselves. We're chasing our own passions.
Yeah, dude, that was fun.
That was fun.
We had some good times. We met some awesome people, and having that opportunity to connect with so many awesome people. That was such a good time.
Dude, you know what's crazy about that was like we came together. We met on social media in 2021, and I know we were both going through our own stuff as we're processing the transition from police work to business, and to come together and support each other and help each other meet guests, create the show. I feel like in that time it gave us purpose, and as first responders, you're always looking for that purpose, and we didn't have it anymore. So that Breaking Bad show gave us that purpose, and even though it was a short little run, it was awesome, man. And to do it with you was even better.
It was impactful too. I think we were onto a good thing. What do you think, man? Is it time?
Time for the Breaking Bad show?
Should we start it up again? Oh, there's the dog. What did I tell you?
The dog just answered you, man. He just answered your question.
Look at that, man. The dog likes the idea.
I can't go against the dog. I can't go against the dog.
Breaking Bad continued. Whatever you want to call it, man. I think it's time.
Let's bring back Breaking Bad.
I do, man. I can feel it, man. Just talking about it, I can feel that energy and excitement starting to boil back.
Together, we got to do this thing. We got to impact people, and maybe if we do it this time, we do a little different. Maybe a little better, a little bigger, a little bolder. You say it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're back.
Breaking Bad. We're back.
Hey, everybody. We are back, and we are so happy to be with you. For our first show back, we are bringing you none other than the incomparable Chief of Police, Neil H. Gang.
This is the Breaking Bad Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Breaking Bad 2.0 or continued or whatever it is. And we're here with Neil Gang. Neil Gang. I'm sorry, I get fired up. Neil, brother, thanks for being here, man. For Ryan and I, we think the world of you, your ability to lead and take care of troops at a high level with all your experience. And man, thank you for being here with us, man.
Yeah, I'm super blessed to be with you. I love the work that you guys are doing. I'm so glad you guys are back, and really just humbled to be with you. We're all just humble servants, right? That's all we are. We're trying to do the job. We try to serve others because that's all really at the end. That's all we're going to be judged by, how you served others.
Yeah, that's so true, man. And it's like we get, I think about all the titles or the accolades or the achievements. It's so easy to attach yourself to those things, that identity. I got this award 7 years ago, or I got promoted 12 years ago. And it's like, okay, what have you done in the last 12 years? Or what have you done since you got that award? And it's like, we're humble servants. We're here. You're chief of police. It doesn't matter. Whatever we have to do to roll our sleeves up and get to work. And I love that about you. Like you don't hide behind your rank. So like, how did you get that mindset about that? Because I think that's great.
Yeah. So here's the thing, like those awards and those ranks, are they saving lives? You know what I mean? They're just positions that we hold for a short time. We're renting the seat, right? And the bottom line is there's too many leaders out there that are, the minute they get the seat, they're trying everything they can not to lose the seat. And it creates insecure leadership, right? And insecure leadership doesn't create trust. And that's why we have such a poor leadership following in our profession right now. There's too many people out there just trying to do the job for other people, right? And the bottom line is how we serve others. I don't care what rank we're at. I'm no better than the janitor that comes walking in every day to clean the house and clean the building. Because the bottom line is we all do the same thing. We just do it at different ranks. That's all. But we're all police officers.
You said something that was, man, I never really stopped and think about it as much. You get the job, you get appointed, you get in this role, you get the Eagles on the collar. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for the community agency. And then you said you're automatically thinking about how to keep the job. Like, how does that, is that from a contractual basis, or you're just, the fear comes in and it's like, okay, well, I got it. Now I got to fight like hell to maintain it. Like, where does that mindset come from a UC?
Yeah, I think it's the pressures, right? I mean, You get the seat, and immediately there's needs and wants of the community. There's needs and wants of your organization. There's needs and wants of your personal life. And you have to prioritize what's important and what's not important. And the bottom line is it's a blessing to get these opportunities to be a chief. I think when they say like 1% of people in the profession actually get a chance to sit in this seat. So do what you can in this seat and leave a footprint on your organization, right? Leave it better than when you found it, and do whatever you can to impact others. And impacting others comes at all different kinds of angles, right? Just because you think it's what it is, and it doesn't mean that that's what's impactful for your people. And here's the thing, right? We talk about inspirational leadership, right? It's really, really important to talk about that. But go ask a chief if they're inspirational, and most of them will say yes. Well, how do they know that? How do they even know that? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a good
have you
point.
ever heard of Leadership Challenge? There's a book. It's by Cozies and Posner.
Yep.
This book's been written, I think it's in its 6th edition right now, so 30-something years. And they evaluate leadership on multiple levels, not just profession of law enforcement, on all levels. And the top 4 qualities have remained consistent over the last 30-something years. It's honesty, competency, inspirational, and forward thinking. Okay, I think honesty in law enforcement, yeah, I'm hoping we're all honest, right? I mean, we know that there's some outliers, but we're hoping we're honest, right? And most of us are competent, but are we being inspirational? That's the key. Are we being inspirational? And the only way to know that is you got to ask your people. You got to ask your people. I think it's easy.
Have you done that? Like, have you asked your people what they think about your style and your leadership ability?
I do, and it doesn't resonate with everybody. I'm not going to sit here and go that everybody loves, me in the organization, because the bottom line is that there's always going to be a small percentage that doesn't get you, doesn't believe in what you're doing, and that's okay. But we have to focus on the people that we are making a following, and we have to focus on the people that do understand the need of what we're doing. You think wellness was popular in some of these law enforcement circles? No. You talk about, we have something called a Zen Den. We have some old timers going to Zen Den. Oh, we need people to sleep. Hey, here's a hint, right? They've been sleeping on duty for as long as I've been in the police, right?
So
So
true.
now we're identifying it and we're allowing them to do it and having a restored sleep program where they could actually do it with safety in mind. So
It's
let's
so
stop
true.
fooling ourselves, right? Let's get over ourselves and let's understand that the profession needs a paradigm switch when it comes to leadership. Let's get over ourselves. We're not some great, we got a chance to get promoted. That's great. And don't get me wrong, it takes a lot of work to get promoted to be a police chief. And we all know that, right? But we have to humble ourselves and realize that again, we're just renting this seat for a short time. Go out there and impact others and make your priority the people that are working for you.
Man, it's. I hear a little bit of like elements of faith. You bring in your faith. I can hear the humility. You brought that up a couple times. Is faith something that's always been in your life, or is that something that you experience on the job, kind of at a necessity? Because I hear different cops have different experience. Oh, I found faith on the job, dealing with trauma, or some people grew up with that. Like, where's that fit for you?
Yeah, so I didn't grow up in a faith-filled house. And in fact, it came later on when I was on the job. And I don't know if it came out of necessity, more so than a void I felt in my life throughout my entire life, even as a juvenile. And the funny thing is, it happened when I was working an off-duty job at the church. And I go, what is this all about? And I was just sitting there and I was listening to this pastor. His name is Pastor Lee McFarland, and he was out in Arizona at the time. And I was just listening to him go, hey, I just kept getting more and more drawn in, and it kept resonating with me. And every week I go, I'm going to stop and talk to him. Every week I'm going to stop and talk to him. And then finally I just did. I had a conversation with him, and just everything, all this void in my life came to life when he talked about Jesus and that Jesus died on the cross for us. And it really just all came together. And it was just a void that got fulfilled through my faith in Jesus Christ.
Wow, man. There's so many great stories like that, right? Right. I feel like every time we have somebody on, there's some, and we go down the faith route, there's some interjection of Jesus in somebody's life, some like awakening. And it's like, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
I had that too. So, and I was one of those guys that went to church every Sunday growing up, but it was a task. It was something you did. I never was close with God. I didn't have the relationship I should have had until later in life. And, but man, Jesus is always there with us. He's always there, always got that arm extended to us. And it's just a matter of we can recognize that he's there. And I feel for police officers, and Neil, I'd love to see what your thoughts. If we can deploy faith more often as cops, we can. It's kind of like BJJ and some of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys that I know that train. Man, they're like really fit. They're emotionally in control. there's something to that of being having that wellness and roundedness to you. So I think faith, it can be the same thing. It's a force multiplier. So maybe you don't have to jump to your gun. Maybe your strength in your faith is your ability to have God show you where you need to be and de-escalate and to talk people down, because you recognize it's us versus, or we're in this together. It's not us versus them. And I just think police officers, if we could develop faith and deploy that a little bit more, that could be a lot. It could be very impactful to morale and retention.
Yeah, I think people misunderstood what the original intent was. It was that faith wouldn't get in the way of government work. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. It was the government shouldn't get in the way of faith, right? So we all think we can't, display our faith at work, but you can. And here's the thing: it's not just a faith in Jesus Christ. I mean, there are people out there that have other beliefs, and I respect that. It's just a faith that there's something out there bigger than ourselves that may be helping us control the environment that we're seeing, right? And some people think it's the universe, and that's okay too, right? As long as that we're not in control, that there's something greater than us that are out there, and there's something called the science of awe that goes into that. And I don't know if you know or have studied the science of awe, and there's actually healing properties with the science of awe. Just understanding that there is something bigger than ourselves, and when we see ourselves smaller, it does tend to bring some abilities to heal ourselves, and with anxiety, blood pressure, even diabetes. So there is some science behind all that.
Wow. And for leaders, if you can humble yourself as a leader, I mean, I think of some of the experiences I've been in leadership positions when I wasn't my best version. And it was always a place of, I thought I was probably more important than I actually was, or my ego was screaming more, hitting the alarm bells louder than it should have been. And I wasn't humble enough and I wasn't collaborative enough. And luckily, God gave me self-awareness to kind of pull me back in those moments when I get feedback. But so many leaders fall into that trap where it's that ego takes over. And if we could find ways to humble ourselves, just as anybody, we don't see people as assets or liabilities. We see them as people. And I think that's, for police work, it's just it's a people business. Everything we do is people. So forgetting that is like you're missing all momentum when we forget that it's a people job.
And I'm not going to speak negatively about previous leaders in this profession, but we haven't had great role models when it comes to people, people leadership. It's more been about the organization and just been more autocratic, militaristic, and it's just time for a paradigm switch. It's not that was bad or what we're doing now is good. It's just time, right? The society changes. If you look at it, I look at policing as a business. Think about a business that has stayed stagnant over 10, 15 years. They're probably out of business, right? Mm-hmm. We have to continue to evolve. We have to continue to meet the needs of the policing profession. And what that is that something is that I subscribe to is, you ever heard of Bob Chapman from Barry Waymiller? He talks about something called truly human leadership. I mean, is there a better terminology than what we need in this profession now? We have to take care of our people, right? We have to take care of our people. That has to be our number one priority before we ever expect them to go out and take care of our communities. We have to pour out into them before they pour out into others. We just have to do that.
Wow. What are some of the issues or conversations you're having with colleagues, other chiefs? I imagine 2020, 2021, there's all these discussions and things are changing and the recruitment numbers are going down. Like, what are some of those, maybe not backdoor conversations, but what are those conversations that you're having with chiefs that I guess I would like to know is the pulse of, hey, we recognize that there's an issue, or there's still some gaps that need to be, there's some disconnects and gaps that have to be filled in.
Yeah. What's funny about that, Chad and Ryan, is really those conversations change depending on what demographic you're in. And what I mean by that is that when you talk to chiefs in California, it's 21st century policing pillars. It's the challenges of the political environments, the legislative challenges. You go to other states and they're talking about different things. But I mean, the low hanging fruit is recruitment and retention, but we got that wrong too, right? We say we have a recruitment problem. We don't have a recruitment problem. We have a retention problem, right? And the answer and the source for the recruitment problem is to increase and pay focus on your retention issues, right? But yet we'll throw, there's an agency out in California now that will throw $75,000 signing bonus to you, but we won't take care of the people in the organization.
So 75,000? Seriously, 75,000
signing bonus. And would it shock you to say that they still have a recruitment problem? Of course they do.
Oh, man. I mean, that just says everything you need to say. We will throw money at you that is more money than police officers in certain areas of the country make in an entire year,
Yeah.
and it's still not going to fix the problem.
Well, because without being cliche and I'm not a B&B buzzwords and BS. That's not my thing, but it's true. People quit the leadership. They don't quit the organizations most often, right? So we have to look at that. And here's the other thing that I find interesting, and maybe you will too when we talk about it, is there's always a different buzzword that's popular. Right? This year seems to be culture. Everybody wants to talk about culture. You know what? I just came back from IACP. What is it? 18,000, police chiefs there. Not one of them had a culture problem. Ask them; they'll tell you. Not one of them will say they have a culture problem. But they're all talking about how great their culture is. But yet we're talking about the culture in our profession needs attention. But not one leader has been humble enough to go, you know what? I need to look at my culture. I need to do work in that area. But yeah, that seems to be the buzzword.
What's your opinion on why? Like, I'm curious about this. Like, where have you thought about maybe sitting in a hotel room or frustrated or just not frustrated, but like, where have you, like, you've been doing this job a long time. Where have you, like, why is that happening? Why are 18,000, or that many police leaders saying, I don't have a problem. Like, what have you found to be the main issue there?
A lack of self-awareness. And it's okay to say that we struggle, right? We're human beings. Right. We continue to tell our people to act like human beings, but then leadership doesn't want to act like a human being. We make mistakes, right? And here's the thing, right? We have to humble ourselves. If you're having a culture problem, there are other people around there that can help you with that culture problem. But when you deny having a culture issue, or you deny having a morale problem in your organization, you just hampered any possibility for us to help you, or the profession to help you, or for mentors to help you. But again, go ask. I mean, you're doing interviews and you're doing podcasts and you guys are doing great things. Go ask a leader if their culture is bad. Go find one that tells you yes and call me and let me know.
That's a good point.
Now, Neil, it's so funny that you brought up culture, because I had that question starting to build up in my mind. Is how much do you think that the toxicity that leads to the poor leadership at the top is just ingrained and sewn into the culture, so that the people that are making it, that are staying with an agency long enough, rising through the ranks of leadership, have just been bred into that culture and assimilated into that culture, where the people that recognize the toxicity, recognize the toxic culture, the poor leadership, have that desire for change and want to change things, but realize they're kind of banging their heads against, that leadership that doesn't want to listen because they don't want to admit there's a problem. How big of a role do you think that plays in the continuing problem of leadership?
I think it plays a big role. See, I do believe, and I want to believe this to be true, that I think we have leaders out there that want to make a change and they want to make a difference. I think that's the majority of the leaders that you find today. I think sometimes they just didn't have great role models. They don't have a clear path on how to accomplish that. So instead of raising a hand saying, I don't know, right, because that makes me feel weak, or number two is trying to get my seat, and I'm defending that seat, right? I'm not going to tell somebody that I don't know. So creating a culture is difficult, right? And culture, a lot of chiefs, when the culture is great, who do you think created the culture? The police chief, right? And when the culture is bad, what was it?
The patrolman.
It was I inherited this culture, right?
Yep,
It's like we cannot take credit for the good unless we're going to accept the bad, right? And that's just about how in anything, right? I think Simon Sinek talks about it all the time. You can take all the credit in the world for the good things, but you have to take credit for the bad things as well. But here's the thing: that's what they say, right? I created this great culture. The culture is great in my organization. But what about the time it was bad? Oh, I inherited that culture, right? So we have to humble ourselves. We have to realize that one person is not going to create a culture, right? We can certainly impact a culture, but I will not sit here and tell you that I've created this great culture in our organization. Certainly, I think we can impact it, and I think we can help steer the culture, but it takes all of us to create the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the middle management, the middle leadership, the backbone of any agency is the sergeants, the corporals, that first line supervisor. And I do believe the chief has to set the culture. But if you don't have the first line supervisors, the backbone every day driving that mission, I mean, you can have Audie Murphy be the chief of police, but you're not going to have a great agency if you don't have sergeants pushing that message every day, because one person can't do all that. Is that a confidence issue? Have you seen, like, because I was deducing from what you were saying, it basically sounds like there are too many leaders that don't have enough personal confidence and courage to lead in this time, and where they maybe weren't shown how to, and weren't developed properly, so therefore that they're a low level of confidence, and now they're in these positions trying to learn on the fly. And is that something you've seen a lot of?
I think for me, it's a combination of all that, Chad and Ryan. I think you guys both hit it on the head earlier. It's like, where do you go to become a police chief? I mean, like, it's not where's the police chief class, right? You sit at number 2 for a while, and the bottom line is that there is nothing like sitting in that seat. Nothing's going to prepare you for it. You could be a number 2 for 10 years. You're not going to be ready to take on that seat until you are in the seat. And there's really some states are putting together, the role of the police chief and all those things, but really you don't know until you get there. So it's not about us. It's right. For me, it goes back to that head coaching job. We don't need to be the smartest people in the room. We need to surround ourselves with smart people that we are willing to take advice from, and we create that team environment. It's never about the leader. It's about the team that you created around you for the success, right? The head coach.
Yeah.
The head coach doesn't have to be the smartest guy on the staff. He just has to surround himself with good offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. It's pretty simple. But for some reason, this profession has had this machismo, right, where this testosterone built thing that I have to do this and I have to do that. No, we don't. We just have to be able to realize that we have to humble ourselves and realize we don't have all the answers. And we need to go out and search and ask and get as many resources as we can to make the best decisions possible for our organizations.
You make me think of like the last chief I worked for. He would always talk about that the outgoing chief before him never prepared him, never developed him, never spent time with him, never let him shadow that much. It was just a very awkward and weird exchange and kind of transition process. And it probably happens in a lot of places. Is that as a chief or commandant or commissioner, whatever that top executive is the time just so restrictive for what you've experienced to not have the ability to kind of spend with the number 2 and really immerse yourself for 6 months with that number 2? Or is that more of an excuse, and like everyone has an ability to mentor and train?
I think you have to create those opportunities. I don't think they're in front of you. You're waiting for those opportunities to come. They're not going to come. You have to look for those opportunities. You have to create those opportunities, right? And it goes back to that whole where we have to pour out into others. We have to, that's intentional leadership to me. Intentional leadership is looking for those opportunities to create those mentoring and those coaching opportunities. But here's the thing: how many organizations are making the number 2 the next chief? That's probably I would say that's not the norm anymore. Now it's all executive recruitments. We're getting chiefs from other organizations that don't know the culture and are coming in because they have a great resume or they speak very well. And the bottom line, those are the people getting the police chief's jobs. They're very rarely, and more so, I think on the East Coast, it's more transitional, right? But when you come out here, it's just an open process, and whoever answered the question the best, whoever did well on the oral board, whoever potentially hit on the political buzzwords, they're getting chief's opportunities. Here's the thing: we don't hire resumes; we hire people. But yet we spend so much time on the resume and the process behind it that we're not getting the people that maybe potentially would be the best chief for that organization. And sometimes it is internal. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah. It's like that John Wooden quote of, I'm going to butcher it up, but I use this all the time, but, while people are curating, or focused on their reputation, they'll focus on your character, because that's your reputation is merely what people think of you. That could be fraudulent. It could be true. Where your character is what it is. That's who you are. And I've always resonated with me that, I've been around many leaders, military, police, that they've spent so much effort, so much time to craft this narrative of who they are, what they've done, where they've been, make their resume that they're most attractive. But then you spend 20 minutes with them. You're like, this is not somebody I want to work with. And like, how can this person fly through all these processes? And it's the same thing you're just saying. They spent a lifetime putting themselves in a situation. And if you look at the body of work, it probably hasn't been a lot of practitioner, probably a lot of academic, a lot of theory study, probably smart as a whip. A lot of people I run into that on the ground, they're not the most tactical or efficient or effective, but yeah, they do have some great ideas. and finding a way to marry, I think, the professionalism of police work, um, um, the intellect needed to work in this highly dynamic field. You still have to, it's almost like analytics in baseball. You can't rely all on the stats. So there's got to be this marriage. You still need leadership. We need influential, impactful people that are not holding a manual or telling you what the policy is. They can look you in the eye and say, hey, we got to get this done. Can you do this with me? You still need leadership like that. And I think bringing theory into it is really important, but not relying on theory too much, not getting out into the field or out in the police car or out in the community and doing stuff with the guys. And how many chiefs, and maybe I would love to get your opinion on this. How many chiefs are out there, or any leader, really spending time with the officers, the sergeants, going around and taking a list of, hey, tell me what's going on in your family, or what's new. Maybe you have a 100-man agency, you can't do that. But what's that like at Pinole? I mean, do you have that ability? How many officers do you have there to spend time with them or connect with them?
Yeah, so we have 30 sworn officers, so we're the perfect size for that. And it's funny because, you get into law enforcement, maybe thinks that you have to be in a big organization to make an impact. That's not the case. And here it is, right? The police chief probably has the same direct connect, whether I'm in a 500-person department or a 30-person department, right? I mean, the direct connects, you probably have 2 or 3 direct connects, no matter what organization you're in, but we lose sight of that. And, we can get busy with the day's activities, or you could be intentional and get out there and spend some time with your people. It's all about being intentional with what you want to do and what's important. There's always going to be the needs of the community, right? There's always going to be the needs of a council or commissioners or whatever it may be. But you have to be intentional, and you have to be able to go out there and make that a priority. And if you make that a priority, you'll do it. And if you don't, then you'll prioritize other things, because the bottom line is we can't make more time, right? We talk about that all the time, right? We only get a certain amount of days. You decide as a leader how you're going to spend that time. You decide, because there's enough time to do it all.
Wow. So I want to talk about Asher, if we could, a little bit with you, Neil. That's how I actually first met you. Is I was doing some background research on police officer suicide and talked to Ernie Stevens. And Ernie said, you got to connect with Chief Gang out of California. And then we connected on the phone a couple of years ago. You're telling me Asher's story, and I still talk about it in trainings when I think about it or when I bring it up. And it's more, I know a lot of people that unfortunately have completed suicide, but I think why it still resonates with me is all these years later, it resonates with you still. Mm-hmm. And like as a third party, just observing and watching how this is what, in the 90s this happened?
90s, yeah.
Yeah, and all these years later, he's still a driving force. So for at least, for you and what you're doing with officer wellness. So would you mind talking a little bit about, Asher, and what his loss has meant to you personally in your life?
Yeah, sure. And here's the thing. We never forget those, right? The three of us can stop for a moment and just reflect on something. And I'm going to ask you to do this. And we'll take 5 seconds so we don't waste a whole lot of dead air time. Think about the first death you ever went to. Do you remember everything about it? Of course we do. It could be 20 years, it could be 30 years, but I want you to spend 2 minutes to think about that for a moment. 2 seconds, sorry, not 2 minutes.
No, you're right, though. I'm thinking right now, and I remember exactly. I remember the details. Yeah.
You know the first death you were at? So imagine that's a buddy of yours, right? So that never goes away. So it decides that where it resonates with you. Is it in your back thought of what's going on, or is it forefront? So in 2019, this was really coming to a head about officer wellness and police suicide was really getting a lot of attention. NYPD was having a symposium at their training center up in NYPD, and really just that's where it really kind of came out of me, was that we have to do something different. Right? We could sit back and talk about all these things all we want, but we have to do something and be proactive and have the courage to talk about some of these things that we've been carrying with us for such a long time. And so his death really is what motivates me. The death of my buddy who died by suicide motivates me to go out there and try and impact as many people as I can. And listen to the thing, we never know the lives we'll save by the work we're doing. You're just not going to know that. But if we know that our efforts are going to put forth that we could potentially save one life and we could potentially change an outcome for one colleague, it's all worthwhile. It's all worthwhile. But again, you have to be authentic. You said something earlier, and I have to go back to it. And we probably could spend an hour talking about this on maybe another episode. But this false creation of these resumes and these people that are want us to believe who they are. Is not LinkedIn doing that right now? Is that LinkedIn doing that? And I encourage people that are listening is really do your research on who these people are that we're bringing in to speak, and make sure that they're people of substance, and make sure that they're people who have some credibility and able to speak on some of these topics. Because right now, I go on LinkedIn and there's just people out there just making money, and they're all in it for themselves. And we have to watch out for people like that in our profession, because they could potentially damage us. Now, I do believe some of them are well-intended, but I think that some of them are losing their path a little bit and need to be brought back on.
So you bring up a great point. I think and we should talk about it. Because I referenced this a little bit in my book, and I think it's interesting because you wrote a LinkedIn post, was that last week or 2 weeks ago maybe? And you talk about this, you're kind of bouncing around the country speaking, and you're giving your real honest thoughts about it. And some of that was kind of these posers of people that, I agree with you. I think most people are in it for the right reasons. But I think the childhood trauma, and I say it for the book, but just trauma in general for us is, I put this in the book. Dr. Drew says about narcissism. It's in his take on his studies of it is, it's really what he had found to be is narcissists have a deep pain, a really deep, deep pain. And their self-serving behavior is a modality in an attempt to satisfy and fill that void, fill that pain. So in a way, and I put this in my book specifically from Dr. Drew, because I kind of wanted to empathize with a narcissist. It's easy to hate a narcissist, but I wanted to empathize and understand why they do the things they do. And if we understand that they're probably coming from a deep place of pain, at least we can understand. I might not want to work with that person, but I understand why they do the things they do. And I think up in the wellness space, because somebody reached out to a police officer and said, I can't believe in the wellness. This is 6 months ago. I can't believe in the wellness space. There are people, competing even in that space. And I said, why? That wouldn't be any different than any other job. And you've got human beings. We talked about this. You have human beings doing human things. We could be talking about religion. There are people that hijack religion for their cause. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think, and I made a post about this too, about resilience. Bring in resilience instructors. It's the most important factor. Who are we bringing in? Are they somebody that has walked through some fires, that picked themselves up, they've humbled themselves, they've learned a thing or two, they're willing to share and impart that on other people? That's great. But if we're talking to people who took a couple classes, got a certification, and now they're getting paid a pretty penny, I don't think that's impact. I think that's profit. But that's not. I think we can get profit and impact. We can do it at the same time. I think we can do both.
I think you bring up great points there. Great points, right? And I'm not. Again, I sit in the space of. I don't think that people are ill-intended, but I think sometimes they lose their space, their space a little bit. This wellness space is not for someone to get rich or to live off, the backs of law enforcement so they can have a nice living. That's not what this is all about. Because
Nope.
You have to sit back. Like when we have 4 officers out in the state of California who die by suicide in 24 hours in LA, and then you have people posting about all the impacts that they're making. To me, I take it as a hit every single time we lose an officer to suicide. Like, What didn't I do? Or what could I have done? Or whatever. Like I do a self-evaluation of maybe I could have went to this, speaking engagement and spoke there. Maybe I could have done this. And I start looking at myself. I go, I got to do more. Because, we talk about below 100 when it comes to collisions and accidents. Why aren't we talking about that when it comes to suicide? Like, I think we need to drive the number down to 0. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be satisfied until we do that. So don't sit back on your laurels, Mr. LinkedIn, social influencer, and talk about all the great impacts you're doing while we're still losing 4 officers to suicide in 24 hours in the state of California. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't.
That's because you take this personally. I mean, you hear it in your voice. You hear the stories you've been through with Asher, and this is the first time you and I and Ryan have really dug into any detail. And you can hear it. I mean, this is personal for you. It's a mission, and I feel the same way. And we can laugh, we can joke, we can have fun, but at the end of the day, we're talking about police officer suicide. It's probably some of the most, other than childhood sexual assault, some of the most serious topics we can be talking about. So we can laugh and have fun and pick each other up because humor is important. But we should be taking it personally. Every one of us that's in this space doing it, we should be losing sleep when this happened. That 4 officers in LA, man, that I still can't imagine how. If you really think about the logistics of how something like that can happen, forget the size of the agent, but just you're taking 4 human beings and you're at the same time, at the same period. I mean, it just goes to show you of how cataclysmic this crisis is, how big it is. I mean, it's so abnormal for something like that to happen, and it's okay. I think we need to talk about it, but we don't need to hijack it. We need to have real, honest conversations. So, and that's what we're doing here. So it's great.
No, I agree. Both of you, Ryan and Chad. I mean, we could sit back and say, well, they're a big organization. I mean, that reminds me of, do you remember back when I think there was 35 officers died by suicide at NYPD back in 2019? They were like, well, they have 35,000. Well, no. We don't just throw away 35 because it's a big organization. Every single one of them is somebody's loved one, right? Every single one is someone's light. It was their future, was their why, whatever it may be. So one is too many. And think about this. We were saying, 4 in the LA area. It was 4 in one agency, LA County Sheriff's Department. It wasn't even 4 in a geographical location. So I can't imagine the pain and the sorrow and the unknown and why is this happening that's going on in that organization. And I think it's great that, that you are here, Chad, and you are here, Ryan, that people can reach out to you and say, hey, I just need someone to talk to. I need someone to talk to because I can't make sense of what's going on. And none of us can. None of us can. And I don't care how many books you've written. I don't care how many times you've been on social media. I don't care what your influence is, 20,000, 30,000 followers you have on social media. Every single one of us needs to sit back and go, no, we need to do more.
Yeah, I agree with you. The loss of life is, to me, I mean, Ryan and I talked about this before, but Neil, like I've seen the loss of life in real time. I can't even explain it. It's so jarring to watch a human watch somebody who was alive, watch them breathe, watch them have wounds, watch them pass away, and then you see the Israel-Hamas conflict, you see Ukraine, you see NYPD has 35,000. What's 35? It just seems like we just love to laugh off the loss of life, and I don't understand how. I mean, has it always been this way? I guess I'm just asking you guys, but to me, losing life is so precious, and there seems to be human beings dying at an alarming rate in this world, and I don't know if it's by plan or what's going on, but it's sad to watch.
Yeah, there's really, how do we respond to that, right? I mean, so in my presentation, and I'm not, me, I'm not pushing anything, but in my presentation, I show a clip of Lisa Brzezinski, Asher's widow. This is like 20 something years later. And in this clip, you just could see the pain on this woman's face. And you could see that it's so impactful to her to even talk about this years and years later. But here's the thing, right? We get in these professions and we have somebody that dies by suicide. And then, the next day we go back to work because work is calling us, right? And we forget that it will forever impact that person's life, let alone their kid's life or their mom's life. And everybody who wears this uniform and puts this badge on and protects our city is someone's mom, it's their sister, it's their brother. And there's such impacts that's going to happen. So when they take their own life, that's a big deal. And we can't just go, okay, well, it was sad that that LA had 4 deaths and, in 2019, New York had 35. That's not okay to talk about it and just dismiss it like that. Every single one of them was someone's why, their light, their why, their future, whatever it may be. Right. So it's personal. It's personal and we should take it personal. So again, I think that's what frustrates me sometimes when I see after an event like that, we see a post on LinkedIn where people are just talking about how great their, presentation is or how great their book is, whatever. I'm like, just take a few minutes to pause and see maybe what else we could have done, maybe to stop an outcome such as that. And that's all. Just do some stuff.
You bring up a great point. I struggle with this too, being in business and having 3 small businesses now. Ryan and I have one, Break a Badge LLC, and 2 others, small ones. But there is a struggle. I tell my wife this all the time. I struggle with how to sell, how to brand, how to market, because I need to pay for my family, so pay for my family's bills and business expenses. Like how to do that, but also be authentic. And sometimes I've caught myself many times having to pull the brakes back, having to stop, having to delete, having to not post something, because you want to do the right thing. You think it's the right thing, but you realize you're not reading the room. And it's definitely not the right time to be doing this, saying this, being this. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think we all could take a lesson from take a breath, think about your actions before you do something, because you could be offending somebody else.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think like everybody has a living to make, and there's certainly people out there doing the right things and making a living talking about that's fine, right? And I respect that, right? There's people in business. There are like yourself, you're selling books, and that's how you're making a living. That's fine, right? But we have to carry a humble approach when it comes to that, right? And realize that the profession that we're making money off of is also struggling, right? And there's a fine balance there. I will never criticize anybody for making money for doing what they want to do, right? We all have to find a way to do that. Not everybody's going to be a police chief, right? And can make the money that I make. I'm super blessed to be able to go around the country and speak and also have a full-time job, right? But that's not that everybody doesn't have that space, right? So I get that. I think we just have to do a better job of just understanding. And I think what you said, read the room a little bit and humble ourselves a little bit and understand that it's okay to go out and make money. It's okay to self-promote to a certain extent, right? But let's make sure we're delivering impactful things. Let's be intentional with the work we're doing. And let's make sure that the goal is what we're doing is to change outcomes, not to put money in our bank, right? If that's an outcome of it, so be it, right? And I get that.
Yeah.
But
No,
let's not make that our focus.
yeah. You said the making money while the profession is struggling. It just gave me chills because it's there's so many people that are doing so many things in every walk of life. But are you adding value? Are you helping? Are you making a difference? If you can't answer that question concretely, then you got some soul searching to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
love that.
Neil, we touched on the officer suicide thing and everything, and one thing, which I usually do is when I see there's different people. I'm sure you see them on social media. They'll share the suicides throughout the profession. One thing I always look at is how do police suicides compare to officers who have been killed by. And I don't look at I don't look at like the health things and line of duty. I look at specifically gunfire because that's one of the most things that we focus on in training is to prevent our defense tactics, firearm training, and everything to prevent ourselves from getting killed by gunfire in a firefight like that. However, we don't focus on the training in helping police officers cope with issues that are going to and could contribute to and lead towards feelings of suicide and suicide in the profession. So one thing I love talking about solutions too. What are some things or a thing or some things you think we could start moving towards or changes that we could start implementing, making that can start reducing that suicide number?
Yeah. A lot of great points, Ryan. I'm going to unpack some of them. Well, I do think the profession's moving in the right direction. I think the profession's always slow, right, to adapt. We're slow to, we're always behind the curve. We just are, right? That's just our profession. We're reactive in nature. We're starting to see like wellness in academies. We're starting to see police chiefs understand the importance of that. So again, the profession's a big ship, right? It takes a long time for the Titanic to change direction. So I'm pleased with that people are spending time talking about this. I'm pleased that we're here today talking about it. But here's the stat that people don't talk about, that we're losing double the amount of officers to suicide than all of the line of duty deaths combined. So you know about suicides here and all other line of duty deaths here. So we talk about the collisions, you talk about the gunfire, you talk about health related. We're losing double the amount of officers to suicide. We have to say that that's not acceptable, right? So the first thing is we have to say that's not acceptable for our profession. And the second thing is we can't just ruminate on that. We have to go, what are we going to do about it? And I do see proactivity out there. I see people like on LinkedIn saying, hey, I want to help. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we're slow to get there. I think we're going to get there at some point. Do I ever think we're going to drive it down to zero? No, because I think we're dealing with human beings, right? And human beings in general are creatures that are just unpredictable. So, but I think we can do a lot more. I think I'm really pleased that a lot of post academies are now including that in the academies. I think agencies are bringing it on when officers are coming into the profession. I think it's really important. What I still think we're lacking is preparing our people for retirement. So it's easy to prepare our people before they come into the profession, right? I'm going to give you some financial wellness tips. I'm going to teach you how to eat right, teach you how to work out. but are we preparing our people to leave the profession? Because when they're leaving the profession, we're losing a lot of people to suicide because they just don't know what that's going to look like. We're not preparing them properly for that. Now, that's a generalization statement, right? There are some agencies doing that, but the overall arching thing is that we're not preparing our people. What is that going to feel like? Because we're taught and we're grown up in this profession that you are what you do, right? You are a police officer. And here's the message. No, we're not. No, we're not. I'm just a human being who puts a badge and a patch on, and I have a gun on my side, and that's what I do for a living. It's not who I am. And that's the message we need to get. Right? You don't have a UPS driver, going out at night going, I'm a UPS driver, right? You don't have you don't have the Wells Fargo bank manager going, that's who I am, right? But we do in law enforcement. And that was just really poor messaging from early on. And
it's almost it's almost tribalism in a way. I think about the military. I won't correlate it to police work as much, but in the military, you had just a lot of young. I went in at 17. You had a lot of young. I went in the infantry, it's all male, just a lot of young. I mean, a couple guys in my squad were, had dysfunctional upbringings, low income, poverty situations. And then you get in this environment where everyone's kind of pushing in the same direction. It feels good. You're part of this team and this structure. Oh, by the way, you're doing something good for people. Oh, it's even better. And you're like on top of the world. And I feel like for those souls without a strong foundation or really strong mentors, really, it's you kind of built yourself in a house of cards. You feel like you're doing something important, and you are, but you're kind of one crisis away from finding out you don't really know who you are. And I think so many cops are in that spot where they think they know who they truly are, but you take that, whatever that is, away from them that they think that it is. And I don't know. I mean, I went through it myself. I went through it where, I probably put the job a little too much more than I should have. And that definitely weighed on me. So I can imagine other cops are doing the same thing. And I think if we, like you being a leader, driving the message home, that's important with that balance. And this isn't your identity. It's your vocation. You can love it. You can be passionate about it, but it's a job. And you got to go home.
You can pour out all into it, pull 100% of yourself into it. But when it's time to not, then you have to find a new way out, right? And find out what that second chapter is going to look like. Start identifying with some other things outside the profession. So when you do leave the profession, you still have meaning, right? You still have meaning. Because again, you're a human being, you're a father, you're a brother, you're a mom, you're a sister. You're not a police officer. That's just what you do for a living. And I think the more and more we get that message out, the more and more people will prepare for that second chapter. But we just don't prepare ourselves well. And in general, the policing profession has not prepared people well for retirement. And that's why we're losing a lot of people once they leave the profession. They're lost. And they lost their identity the minute they gave up their badge and their firearm. And we have to do a better job of recognizing that and just putting more effort into it, right? We could always point fingers, right, what we could do. But the bottom line is we just got to pour more effort into it. There's some great people working in that space now. I think we have to worry about their finances is one part of it, but really giving them an identity besides the badge and the uniform that they put on every day.
Yeah, purpose. Yeah, get some more. And Ryan and I talk about this all the time. That we're still searching for purpose. We're still in this mission of, we love breaking badge and we're doing all these other things. But really, at the core of it, for people, service-oriented people like us, all three of us, without purpose, I definitely think we're kind of beating our head against the wall. So just if you're watching this and you don't have purpose, find some purpose. It's hard to find the true purpose, but I think there's a lot of things. Like I told my wife the other day, when I can't find something to do productive, I'll clean the dishes, I'll fold lawn, like whatever I have to do. And I say, I just have to be productive. I have to do something. I have to add value. And if that's all I can add value today is clean the dishes, then that's better than sitting on the couch and crying about it. So, and I think that could be that positive empowerment for police officers to be really encouraging to weather those storms. Because like you said, everyone's going to have a tough time on that job. That's a tough job, and you're going to have some dark seasons, and you weather it through a foundation of who you are.
Right. We're all going to go through the mountaintop seasons and the valley low seasons, right? It's just a matter of getting through those seasons and knowing that there's another season to follow, right? And so when you talk about purpose, I think what you and Ryan are doing with the Breaking Badge podcast is purpose, right? You're giving people an opportunity to come and listen and give an opportunity for people to go, oh, yeah, I feel the same way. And it gives them purpose because they're surrounding themselves with people that are experiencing the same thing they are. And we're normalizing these conversations. And that's what's important. You have to normalize these conversations. People listen to this today. You're not alone. You're not the only person that doesn't know what you want to do when you retire. You're not the only person who's thought about maybe hurting themselves. You're not the only person that may be drinking a little too much. But here it is. You have brothers and sisters out there that got your back. And we have you, right? And I'm not going to use the got your six because that's too cliche to me, but we have your back and we'll lead you in the right direction. You just got to pick up the phone call. You got to make that phone call. You got to send an email. You get on a podcast. You got to do a chat, something, and let someone know that you're struggling so we can help you. But there's people out there that want to help you, and we just got to know that you need the help. And that's what we have to do, normalize those conversations. And that's why I applaud when you asked me to be on the show. Was my answer, was it 3 words? I think I said, yes, let's do it. I mean, I didn't even have to think about it, right? And, I don't care what time it is. I don't care what time zone we're in. There's always time to do this. There's always time to get this message out that we care about the people in our profession. And that's what the message needs to be to leaders. Start caring about your people, and then we'll start changing this profession.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think about like this, you say that, I think about a 27-year-old patrolman with 4 years on the job sitting in Anchorage, Alaska on patrol. It's 3 a.m, no calls coming in, maybe not feeling the best in life, and I don't even want to say location because I don't even know what that location is. But I'm giving an example of a rogue police officer just kind of hanging out and watching his interview, listening to Chief Gang and saying, you know what? He's right. He's right. And like that one person, that one patrolman sitting in the car listening to a voice that just says logically that season you're in is going to end and a new one will begin, and like all that. He's right. Like I just think that podcast space is huge for that right now. And we all have the ability to get out and say something powerful that can help one person 2 states away. It's powerful.
So for me, it's like, you're standing in front of you're potentially in a spot, right? Like you said, that I won't say the city that you said, but if they are there and they're freezing cold, they want to work in Pinole, we're hiring, but that's a whole different point. But here's the thing. The mountain that we stand in front of, it's amazing what faith will do, right? Because the Lord can make a mountain move, right? With the faith, the size of a mustard seed can make that move. And the minute that you see this big mountain in front of you, before you know it, that mountain's going to be so far behind you, you're not even going to know how you either traversed that mountain, got around the mountain, whatever you did, but it'll be so far in your rearview mirror that it's not even going to be an issue. So understand, if you're standing today in front of a mountain, you're only a day away, maybe an hour away for that mountain to be behind you. Hang in there, right? Make a phone call, get some help, call one of us, go on your podcast, do whatever it has to do. Get somebody, and we're going to walk you through that, and we're going to help you get past that mountain, because we all face mountains, every single one of us. I don't care what rank we're in, whether you're a police chief, I don't care if you're a brand new officer in the academy. We all face mountains, and we all can help each other through those difficult seasons. And that's what this is all about: service to others. Here's the thing: the bottom line is when we leave this earth, right? When we leave this earth, it's not going to be about the good deeds you did. It's going to be how you served others and how you treated others. And that's what this is all about. And then there's no leadership books I'm going to pull off the shelf that talks about that, right? Because that's not going to sell. It would be a 1-pager, right? It's a 1-page book, and that's not going to sell money. But the bottom line is, how are you serving others? And that's the biggest question. That's the biggest question.
Neil's taking us to church. Wow. Dude, the legacy. How do you want to be remembered? I mean, I say it to my kids all the time. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? You want to be remembered as selfish, negative-minded person, or do you want to be remembered as somebody, hey, man, they didn't have much money, much smarts, much anything, but, man, they cared a heck of a lot, and they really helped me to get to where I want to go. Oh, that person didn't have any money or didn't come from anything famous. They helped you get to, well, how about the person that have all those things? They didn't really help me that much. It's amazing how that works out.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I think that's always a difficult question to answer, right? Because you never want to feel like you're at that cusp in your life that you're talking about legacy, right? But if I left the earth tonight, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I know that I poured as much as I can out into others, and I put service to others before myself, and that's all that really matters. And I think that if we have humble people that continue to do that, you may not get that chief's job. So what, right? You may not get that sergeant's promotion. So what? The bottom line is, are you serving others? We have the greatest job in the world. It's not police chief. It's not police officer. It's not police captain. It's serving others. And that's what this is all about, right? That's what you guys are doing with your podcast. It's what we're doing here today, just serving others. And you know what? If this message can reach one person and we could change an outcome for one person, then this time was all spent. That was all meaningful. And that's all that really matters.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I did have one thing I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Young young captain, whatever, young up and coming chief candidate, late 30s, early 40s, wants to be a chief
Don't
in
do it.
this time we live in now? What's your feedback, your suggestions?
I think you really have to evaluate where you're at, right? And see what's important to you. We all, I think we get in this profession and we think that success means the rank that you have on your sleeve or the collars you wear. That has nothing to do with it, right? Some people have been blessed more with opportunities that others didn't have, but don't think you can't make an impact from where you're at, right? I've always said this, and I'll say it one more time to your audience, is that one person can change the world, right? Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, they changed the entire world. Don't think that you can't sit in your organization and change the culture or change your organization from where you are today, because you can. Be passionate, be intentional, and have the courage not to say no and not to stop the effort. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
That was amazing.
You're like a pastor, Neil. You're like a preacher, man. Just like, wow, yeah.
That's my second chapter, I think, Chad.
That was awesome. Right, man. Like we brought the Breaking Bad show to have Neil Gang come in and take us to church with leadership stuff. I is there somebody in your agency, a leader that has challenged you on your beliefs or likes to seek your guidance on their leadership journey? I'm just curious if you said earlier you're not for everybody. Like we all know, not everybody's cup of tea is everybody. But I'm curious if in your leadership journey when you mentor other leaders, have you been challenged by any younger leaders that want to kind of push back on some of your ideology or philosophy?
You know, I wish I could say I did, so we could have a deeper conversation on it. But no, I don't think so. I think when you have leadership where it's people focused and you're talking about pouring out into others and just going out and wanting to impact one person a day, if that's your goal, how do you push back on that? How do you push back on that?
So none of your people said you're toxic or you're crazy for the leadership stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different issue, Chad. I didn't say that. But yeah, no, I don't think it resonates with everybody. I think there's some traditional people that think that that we should worry about use of force, or we're law enforcement's too soft now, and all those other things that you hear out there. And the bottom line, it has nothing to do with being soft, right? It's prioritizing what's important. And our communities are certainly important, and police reform certainly important, but nothing is more important than the people that are working for us in our organizations. And I don't think you can ever go wrong by pouring out into the people, right, that are taking care of your communities. That has to be our highest priority. Our human capital has to be our highest priority as a leader in our profession. Like I said, we take these seats, and I'm sitting here in this chair today, and you say to yourself, okay, I got all this agenda, right? I have to take care of the community. I got these other needs. But the bottom line is, when we take the seats, you pour out into your people, everything else will fall into place, right? And there's a lot of other priorities that are out there, right? Police reform, recruitment and retention, all those other things. And I always laugh at these new police chiefs taking these oral assessments. Like, what's the biggest challenge in law enforcement? Well, recruitment and retention. No, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? And we all know that answer. But the bottom line is that's not what it is. It's about pouring out into our people, making our people our priority. And the bottom line is it's about leadership in this profession. It's about leadership in this profession. Because we have to have a paradigm switch in our profession. We have to worry about the leadership. We have to make sure we have authentic leaders, not buzzwords and BS, right? Or out there just to be leaders for somebody else, right? Again, take care of your people and they'll take care of you, and they'll take care of our communities. I'm not a big Richard Branson fan. I'm just not, right? He's a little different for me. But I listened to a podcast one time and it changed my perspective. And what he said is, in my companies, the customers don't come first. Like, you never heard that anymore. You never heard that. What he said is, you take care, my people come first in my companies. And again, multi-billionaire, right? Richard Branson. And he said, you take care of the people in your companies, you never have to worry about them taking care of your customers. And that's the type of attitude, that's the type of philosophy we need in this profession. Caring leaders know how to lead with the heart, right? Another one, lead with the heart. Oh my gosh, that sounds so, so soft, right? Isn't that how our parents led? Right? They led with the heart, but they were the hardest on us, right? We could still lead with the heart. We can still lead with the heart. We can be empathetic.
Yeah.
We could be compassionate. We could be active listeners, and we still could be the best leaders out there that people have ever seen before. Right. So don't get misunderstood that just because you lead with the heart, that means you're soft. It's not. It actually means that you're actually really, really looking at things through a different lens, and you're having a paradigm switch of all the books that maybe you read in our profession. Right. And here's the other thing. We need to look outside our profession for leadership. There's plenty of great leaders in our profession, right? The Will Brattons, the Charles Ramseys, all the other people that have written books, the generals in the military that we've all read books. But there's a lot of people outside our profession that we need to look at, right? And we have to understand, the Barry Waymiller Corporation with Bob Chapman, the Simon Sinek's, right? It's a combination of a blend of all those leadership styles that we need to look at. See, I think leadership in
so true.
is more CEO of a business than it is militaristic leader, right?
Yeah.
And we have to worry about being that forward thinking. We have to be inspirational, right? We have to be that 2.5% innovators and bring what's coming, right? Because it's not about the best practices in our profession. It's the next practices that we need to look at. See, best practices, we all want to talk about that, but those are currently in place. Who's looking at the next practices? And that's where I think the real work needs to be done. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, you're right. Like the next, I never thought about that. That like we're doing something now. Great, evaluate it, analyze it. But like, what about the next thing? You got to keep that. You got to keep a vision. You got to keep an eye down the road. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just everything's just reactive. You're never gonna progress.
No.
Because you're just reacting to things. That's interesting.
It's funny.
And you said,
yeah, go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry.
You said about the weakness. And I just want to go a little bit further on that because I've been told that too. You're too soft. You're too touchy feely. Like I immediately think that something's happened to that person for them to say that because that's projection. That's. I know I'm not too touchy feely. I've made a lot of arrests. I led my agency in arrests. I can do all those things. Search warrant. We can do all that, but I also help people carry their groceries in because that's service to me. They're both service. Mm-hmm. One is not service over the other. They're both equally important to me. Now you could argue arresting a drug dealer is probably more beneficial to society than helping a lady with her groceries. But I still thought that was surface. So I'm glad you said that. You're a chief of police, a high-performing chief of police, and you're saying that kindness, being nice, empathetic, that's not weakness. That's strength. You show up in key spots when you use your faith and when you use empathy and kindness. That keeps you out of the hot seat, not puts you in it. So, thanks for saying that.
Yeah, I think there's a mistaken thought that you can't have both, right? If we think that our officers can't do both of those things and be both those type people, then maybe we don't have the right police officers wearing your badge and patch, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a time and place that we have to make arrests. That's what we do, right? That's the core of law enforcement at certain times. But the other core is helping people, right? Yeah. I guarantee. So I've been a police chief almost 10 years now. Everybody that's ever come through our organization, I interview them and do a chief's interview. When I asked them, why do I want to be a police officer? How many people do you think said to me, because I want to make arrests or I want to carry a gun or badge or I want to drive a police car and drive fast and pursue cars? How many? Mm-hmm. None.
Maybe none, yeah.
None. Zero have said that to me. Zero. Wow. And yet 5 years down the road, they're like, oh, we can't do this. We can't pursue cars. And I go, hold on. And I call it my timeshare. I go, let's go into my office for a minute and let's sit down in that same exact chair that you sat here 3 years ago. And I want you to remember what you told me why you want to be a police officer. And typically it's because I want to serve. I want to help others, whatever it is. Well, are you still doing that? Yes. We just have to reframe that for them. We have to reframe that because they lose their path. They lose focus of what they see around the country and what's important. But the bottom line is we can have both. Right. The same way you can go home and you could be this warrior on the street. Right. But you can go home and hug your little kid when you get home. Right. Your child. Mm-hmm. Right. You can still be soft for them and be this warrior mindset where you're on the street. Right. You still can have both those things. I think we make the mistake with thinking you have to have one or the other. It doesn't work. Right. We just have to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
And you said it the best. We have to show police officers, young cops this. I mean, everything in life you're pretty much shown as a little kid. You grow up with your parents and they're modeling behavior for you, hopefully good behavior, and they're nurturing you. And it's no different than when you get into a job and we have to show them. So if you don't have leadership showing you how to weather storms, leading by example, how to serve. Oh, by the way, helping somebody with their groceries today, is probably just as important as arresting the drug dealer yesterday. And I'll tell you why later, and leading those examples and setting that consistency. If you don't have that, well, how are these young officers going to learn that? They're not.
Right.
I mean, maybe they'll learn it from somebody, but and I think, have you seen that from a leadership, like low-level leadership or sergeant? Like we're missing some, some of that modeling or that example setting, or what have you seen with that?
I think we're missing the human side of what we do. And you know what, and whatever it is, it's the profession we can blame. We can blame anything for it, but we just are. I think we have to pause and realize what we're doing and why we do the things we do. And I think most people are going to tell you because they have this innate call to serve, right? So for men of faith, we have a calling, right? For other people, they don't even know why. I want to help others, right? Maybe that's how they'll frame it. But it's all the same thing, right? We have a call to serve, but we forget that for some reason. And here's the thing. I know we're probably running on time, but hopefully we can come back and have another session because I could talk to you for another 2 or 3 hours. We have to change how we train our people in the academy. Right. And I know we're changing a little bit. There's some change going around the country. But I mean, when you don't do something in the academy, what does an RTO do to get you to comply?
Yeah.
They scream at you. Right. In most cases. Right. That's how we got through the academy. Right. If you didn't do something, you weren't in line, your uniform had a thread on it, whatever it was, you got screamed at. Is it any wonder why officers get on the street and when someone doesn't do what they want them to do, what do? They scream at them. Right? And then we wonder why we can't think logically while we're screaming at somebody to comply and they're not complying with you. They didn't go to the same academy as you. Right? They don't know that when you yell at them, they're supposed to comply. That's something that we learn in the academy. We have to break ourselves of that. We have to understand that there's a better way, right?
And you're right. Cadets they're like babies in the sense of if we don't really embrace this training opportunity when they're cadets, really set them on a good foundation, spend time with them. You're right. I mean, on breakouts in the academy, or the instructors, the cadre, using that time to their advantage. Hey, we're here anyway. Can I add value to any of these cadets? Can I spend more time with them? I can tell you, I was a police academy instructor for a while, and there was some days you're trying to just kind of go through the motions to get through it. That's not and I didn't do that, but I've seen people do that, and that's, you kind of forget, like, those are human beings. You're training the next generation. Let's put a little bit more effort. Let's put a little bit more focus. This is not a check the box sort of thing or money making. This is enriching and developing future police officers. Pretty serious job. I think we should take it a little more seriously.
Yeah, and it's systemic, right? I mean, all chiefs want them out. It's 15 weeks. Can you make it 12 weeks, right? And we're running out of time. We want people on the street. So it's a systemic issue, right? That's not one person. We can't point the finger in one area. It's just something to be aware of, right? And understand that we maybe do have to talk a little bit more through why we do the things we do. And I think a lot of academies are adjusting, to share a little bit of the human side, and they're bringing in, components of that. And I know there's a lot of like Cal Post and other posts out there that are adding those components, and I applaud those efforts, right? But the bottom line, we still have to have people go out there and make arrests too, and be prepared to do that. So it's a really a difficult dichotomy that we're trying to change, or train somebody within 15 weeks to be able to take this job, and that's the thing, right? The academy is just the beginning of our traiing.
Yeah, it's a hard job. I mean, policing it's funny. I came right from the military, came right back from Iraq. A year and a half after leaving combat missions, I'm now in my field training program at the police department. And I remember thinking, God, this is hard. This might be harder than the military because of the law changes. Everything's changing day by day. You didn't have that robust teamwork like I did in the military. Just by nature, you could be the only patrol car in your sector, so you might be somewhere for 5 minutes by yourself until backup gets. It was just a whole nother animal for me. I said, man, this is probably more challenging. The dynamic environments are fluid, probably more so, and changing more quickly, which is interesting. So you're right. It's not an easy job, and we all need to remember that and celebrate each other for all of us that have served this job, or especially the ones that are still in it. Just be a little bit more graceful. It's a hard job. It's a hard job.
It is. Ryan, good.
Nope. I
thought
nothing here.
Yeah, I think that, again, I think people are well intended. I think we're moving in the right direction. I still think we have some old school people think that we don't have to change. We do have to change. I'm not saying that we have to be, some of the reforms that people are suggesting, certainly maybe a little extreme, right? But we have to change. And I think any business that's in business, and like I said, I think policing is a business. I think it's a team sport as well. I think that you have to look at what we can do better and look for growth opportunities. Does that mean, some crazy change that needs to take place? Probably not, but some minor adjustments to how we look at things and how we perceive things. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. In the recovery space, there's this analogy that was told to me, and I use it now with clients. It's the easy way to understand is if you have this skyscraper, it could be a beautiful skyscraper. Maybe it's 20 years old. The paint is chipping away. You don't need to destroy the whole thing. Maybe you just got to take down 40 floors, 30, the top 30 floors, and rebuild it up from there, repaint it. And this concept of police work and the criminal justice, but tearing it all down, I don't think we need to do that either.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, we need to make some changes. For both sides to say we don't need to make changes is foolish, and to say we got to make cataclysmic changes is silly too. So, but I think we need to make some changes for sure. And I think that can all start holistically, internally. Be a better human, be a better leader. I think we can invest a lot more money in leadership to develop them, and maybe not the same way they've been developed, but provide them with ongoing opportunities. The one thing that frustrates me is whatever these one-time large training programs that most executives go to, which I love. I think it's great. I've never been to one, but there's no reason to criticize it. But just to send to 1, 8, 12-week school or training and that's it, I also think is really debilitating for leaders, because we're humans, and even as leaders, humans, we need constant, consistent engagement to continue to grow and get better. Coming back to our agencies and kind of not just focusing on leading our department or officers without focusing on our ability and how we're doing as leaders on a daily basis, which I think many aren't. I think it contributes to so much. If we could just focus holistically, internally, focus on training and developing leaders already in the job to really grow and help them develop into the best version of themselves, and then encourage them to train the next, their replacements, and really fix it. We're not might see it in this generation, but maybe the next, 10 years down the road, we'll see a little better, cultures a little bit more inclusive, and people not completing suicide as much, because that breaks my heart. It still does. I see an article. Sometimes I can't even read it because it just hits me in my gut for a second, and I don't even want. I see the smiling photo in the article and the picture, and I just can't dig deep in the details, knowing that the sadness of a family that's left behind in ruins and an agency.
Yeah, you brought up some good points there. One was that we're people in process, right? So we can't go to a leadership class 10 years ago and expect that to, withstand our career, right? We're people in process. We think differently, we act differently. So our training has to be adjusted as well. And we have to continue to train leadership in our profession. I mean, that has to be a constant, right? There's Simon Sinek talks about this, and he talks about that about 60 years ago, one of the greatest orators of our time, Martin Luther King, took to the 18th step of the Lincoln Memorial. He said 250,000 people dawned on the National Mall that day. No TikTok, right? There wasn't Instagram. There wasn't any websites to figure out what time to come. But somehow, by word of mouth, they were able to get 250,000 people to come to listen to him speak. And he spoke about having a dream, right? And I think we all share the same dream. And that dream is that we develop leaders that prioritize our people, that take care of and understand the need to pour out into our people, and understand that is our number one focus. And that's the number one reason why we get into leadership positions. Right? Because we could all have a dream. Although he's the greatest orator, doesn't mean we don't have dreams. And we have dreams too, is that we create environments where our people feel valued, that their voices can be heard, and that we send them home psychologically safe to know, I did a good job. I think it's really important that we do that. Right? And then all that ties into recruitment and retention, and ties into all those things. Gen Zs, what are they looking for? We want to set off a recruitment program for a Gen Z when we don't even do any social experiments or find out what Gen Zs are looking for. They don't look for the traditional law enforcement. They don't care about the branding. They don't care about the thin blue line flag. They don't care about, jumping out of helicopters. They want an environment where, number one, work-life balance, They want to know that they're going to be cared for. They want to know that the work is meaningful, and they want to know that they're valued, right? That's what we're looking for. But yet we wonder why we have this recruitment problem. Well, the recruitment problem is ours, right?
Yeah, I've heard leaders. I've heard leaders laugh at what you just said. Like, oh, that's what they want. It's like, well, if you're laughing at it and you're the chief executive, I don't know how you're going to fix your problem, because that's who you need to. You need to meet them where they're at. You got to figure it out.
Exactly, literally and figuratively speaking, right? We can't hold on to our traditions and expect people to adjust. We have to adjust our traditions to what the new workforce is looking for. That's a situation. Gordon Graham probably described it best. He said the recruitment pool is now a puddle, and we have to make adjustments to be able to get people to want to be police officers and see the value of that, right?
Yeah.
And I know I'm sharing different leadership concepts, but I think it's really important to understand that, again, that day, there was no TikTok, there wasn't podcasts or anything, but 250,000 people dawned on that area to hear him speak because of a purpose. Think about what you guys could do with your Breaking Bad podcast, your Breaking Badge podcast. You guys have a platform now, so we got to spread this message out there about that people can reach out. It's courageous to reach out and ask for help, right? We have these platforms now. We have social media, we have phone calls, we have texting, we have all these different avenues to get our message out. We can blow this up and we can get this message out, but it's not going to happen unless we put some effort into doing that and be intentional behind that. Again, if someone's struggling today, call somebody, reach out. Doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, I'll even challenge this. I'll tell you, you're more courageous than the people that are sitting there being quiet, saying that they got this. You're being more courageous by reaching out and picking up that phone call.
100%.
Amen. Brother, thank you so much, man. I mean, it's just incredible. Incredible.
I'll leave with this. This is my last point, and it's something that Bob Chapman just put out. And again, I'm throwing out different leaderships that have influenced me. He said this, and I want us to think about this for a minute and let people that are listening think about this. What he said was, how we lead can affect how people live. How we lead can affect how people live. How true is that? How true is that when you were a young rookie? How true was it when you were trying to get promoted? How true was it when you were sergeant and all the way up the ranks that we became? Mm-hmm. How we were led definitely affected how we lived our lives.
That's going to be the name of this episode right there. Way to end it.
Perfect. Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Neil, thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, Neil. It was such a pleasure to have you on and be able to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, again, all the thanks go to me, to you both, and thank you for thinking of me. I'm just a nobody trying to do a job, right? And I always say this, right? If not me, then who? And until I can answer who that is, then I'm going to continue to do what I can, right? And if it's one person at a time, it's one podcast at a time, it's one presentation at a time, then that's what it's going to be. I always say I'm just a humble servant trying to do a job that he's called me to do. And that's really what this is all about. And that's what this is all about. It's really just going out there and trying to serve others, trying to change outcomes while we have this time to be able to do that. Again, we're in rented seats. We're in rented seats. Well, while I'm renting the seat, I want to be the most impactful person I could possibly be and change some outcomes for our people.
Yeah. Woo!
Awesome.
Chief Neil Gang, Pinole Police Department. Jersey boy.
That's Jersey. Right. West Windsor.
There you go. Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
keep leading that way you're leading, man. I mean, you inspire us all. You inspire so many more cops. I'm sure we just said there's going to be somebody that you don't even know exists in this world is going to sit in a patrol car and be like, Chief Gang, who's this guy? Man, I really like what this guy say. Turn it up. And he turns it up. And like you said, one at a time. That guy could be sitting in Maine or could be sitting in Florida or Texas, or she could be sitting in North Dakota. And they're going to get to hear that. So thank you. All the best to you, brother. Keep doing good work.
Again, you too. And thank you both for what you're doing. And heartfelt thanks to you, and continue with the mission. It's not how many people watch your video. It's not that. It's not how many people watch your podcast or listen to your podcast. It's that message that reaches that one person that needs it.
Truth. All right, brother. Be well. Good talking to you.